What up, everybody? Dirty Digits, Scratch DJ Academy, New York City, back again with Monster Energy to crush quarantine. And today we're getting into some intermediate scratching techniques and we're breaking down the one-click flare. So check it out. All right, the one-click flare is an open fader scratch. So we need to make sure we're starting with our fader open and ending with our fader in that same open position as well. Much like the chirp, where we take 2 steps to turn the sound off and turn it back on, we need to learn to do all of that in 1 step for the flare, which we're gonna call the click. So it's gonna look like this. Now that we have the fader motion down, let's talk about the record motion. We're gonna start very slow by just doing a drag. So the record motion on its own sounds like this. Now we want to try to place that click in the center of that record motion. We're trying to take the 2 sounds of forward and backwards and turn it into 4. So all together, the one-click flare is like this. This was a very difficult scratch for me to get because it looks and sounds completely different. So to help you get the feeling of it, let's use our visual markers for an exercise. So we're going to start with our visual marker right at 12 o'clock. And as we move forward, we're going to make sure we stop it right at 3. Let's bring it right back to 12. So if our record motion is from 12 to 3, we want to try to get a nice fader placement in the center of that. So I'm going to keep my eyes around 130, and every single time my marker passes 130, that's where I'm going to place my click. Let's try that out. This is a great exercise to help you get the feeling of the scratch. Of course, when we speed things up, our record motion is going to get more compressed, and it's going to get super difficult to try to get that nice, even fader placement in the middle of every single one. So let's slowly build momentum before we go to a beat. Cool. Now that we have that idea, let's work to a beat and start really slow before we get out of here. Cool. So we're going to start this thing off with full notes, which means we're just going to try to do 1 flare per bar. So let's get on top of our samples, make sure our fader's open in 7, 8. That's all we're going to do. Let's do 1 more of those. Here we go. Now let's take out the rest and jump into half notes. Very cool. Next thing we need to try to do is try to get into quarter notes. So we're going to try to space these things out a little bit because it gets pretty tough pretty quick. So we're going to try to do 2 quarter notes and take a break. So we're going to go. Let's do 2. Take a rest. 1 more time. And now we're going to go all in. Dope. Now, the last step before we get out of here is we really want to try to end this thing with 8th notes. The 8th notes are tough because we have a smaller record motion. It's going to be harder to get it in there. So what we're going to try to do is do just a couple 8th notes together and let it rest before we're all done. So we're going to go. Let's mix it up with quarter notes. Here we go. There it is, guys, the one-click flare. This is definitely one of those scratches that took me a long time to get accustomed to. It was like months before I can even do this thing. So I strongly suggest having a lot of patience and sticking with it, and this thing is really gonna come together. As always, we wanna incorporate speed as the last component of the mix, so start very slow, get a nice crisp scratch, and then we can gradually speed that thing up to the level where you want it to go to. Speaking of that, we're gonna keep leveling up in all of these videos, so until then, Dirty Digits, Scratch DJ Academy, New York City, peace.